Well, hello. Today I'd like to do something different. I want to talk about pens that I've gotten rid of. Now, these are not ones that I've thought about getting rid of. These are pens that are gone. So, I can't tell you I can't show you contemporary footage of these pens because they're gone. So I went back in my archives and I pulled footage, and it's from a wide variety of cameras and techniques I've done over the years, so this will look spliced together, but that's okay. So what makes me want to get rid of a pen? Well, one of the big hints over the years has been, I don't use it. And when I look at it, I'm like, I think I'm going to grab this one instead. Now, I have a couple of vintage pens I don't use very often, mainly because they're a pain in the neck to clean out. Totally different issue there. These are pens that I just fell out of love with or never loved to begin with. All these have either been sold or traded. These aren't pens I've given away. These are a little bit up level from what I would give away. So let's take a look at them, and I'll just try to narrate, and I'll throw the footage in later. So the first pen I wanted to look at, and by the way, the reviews of all these pens are down below, so if you want to see the full review of each pen and how I felt about it then, feel free. Back then I wasn't doing so many first impressions, I was more doing videos long after I'd gotten the pen. But I don't know, for a while there I was going to do reviews and first impressions, then I got around to just doing first impressions. But I added Survivor pens, which none of these are. So be doing some Survivor pens soon. These are pens that I've kept, probably for years. Sorry, it's super hot out there. Got up to almost 100 degrees today, and working in my garden, and I'm thirsty. So, the first pen I want to talk about is the Faber-Castell Ondoro. Now, I had back then I hadn't really gone down the vintage rabbit hole yet, and I wanted to branch out and try some other brands that I was less familiar with, and Faber-Castell was definitely one of them. The Ondoro appealed to me because one of my favorite writing instruments when I'm not using a fountain pen is a number 2 pencil. Wood pencil. So it definitely has that look. Slip cap, as I recall. And I found it very comfortable to hold. Very nice in my hand. It was a nice nib. Fine point nib. And I honestly never inked it up. And the real reason is I found pens that I liked better. The Faber-Castell Ondoro just didn't excite me. What did I like better? Parker Sonnet, Lamy 2000, pens like that. So I ended up selling this one. I don't remember what for. Not what I paid for it, but them's the breaks. So it's gone, for better or for worse. Now another pen, which when I bought it I wouldn't have thought I'd be getting rid of, was the Lamy Dialogue 3. Now, I've wanted a good retractable fountain pen. I was not thrilled with the Pilot Vanishing Point, which is not yet on this list, but it's definitely on the chopping block. I do kind of like the Platinum Curidas, once I got one that didn't have a cracked feed. And what was the other? Oh, Pilot Fermo, which does appear on this list. The Lamy Dialogue 3 has the coolest retraction mechanism, bar none. It is you twist the top, it's got a little door down inside that's kind of a dome that uncovers the nib, and then the nib goes out, and even the clip kind of retracts, which, by the way, is a complaint I have about the Vanishing Point and the Fermo, that the clip is just too much in the way. And of course it's a Lamy Gold nib, and I liked the oblique, I think it was an oblique medium that I had. I liked that. What I didn't like was holding the pen, because it's a girthy, thick monster, and it just wasn't that comfortable to hold. fun to play with, fun to look at, not actually that much fun to write with. And I kept trying to love it. I kept inking it up thinking, no, I will love it, I will love it. And no, I never loved it. And eventually I sold that one. I had to sell it a little bit of a loss because the person, well, more than a little bit, but the person buying it really wanted a fine nib and I didn't have one, so I discounted that from the price. But anyway, it was well constructed, well made. It's a good pen. I think everything on this list is a good pen. I just didn't like it. So my next pen was my first expensive pen. This is an Edison Collier. I purchased it from Goulet Pens. This wasn't a custom Edison pen. It was just a regular plain ordinary with a steel nib. I fell in love with it at first. Beautiful pen. It had a problem, but shared that problem with a couple of my other pens, which eventually I figured out was the ink. I was using Noodler's Black as my regular ink back then, and it just would not go down. The air bubbles would come up from the feed, and they just stay there at the bottom of the converter, and then it would quit writing after the ink in the feed ran out. So, I bought a bottle of Noodler's Heart of Darkness and said, let's let her rip, and it was fine after that. Pen looked good. It looked impressive when I was writing with it. People were always like, oh, it's so pretty. But I'll tell you, after a while, after the pretty wore off, the actual writing experience was just kind of meh. I didn't care. It just didn't appeal to me. Plus, the pen kind of smelled like garlic. I had bought it kind of to commemorate a major milestone, and so I held on to it for a while for sentimental reasons. But I eventually traded it for a Norwegian pen, which you've seen on this channel, that I'm a lot more excited by. Doesn't look as pretty, but it's sure a lot more fun. So I haven't really looked at Edison in years, and I probably won't. It's just pretty plastic, but this is about when I started. Sorry, I was curious what I was seeing outside my window. And I realized I'm on display here, so after I get done with this video, I'm probably going to close this window. But where was it? It started me realizing my problem with a lot of the modern pens. So many of them, what you're really trading is the body. A lot of them have the same plastic feed and the same Yovo nib. Sure, you can put different nib sizes on, but they're really not that unique. And that's what led me down the rabbit hole of vintage, because vintage pens are unique, sometimes a little bit too unique, but you know what I mean. Pretty pen, and nothing against Edison. They are doing what makes sense for a manufacturer of their size. They're concentrating on filling mechanisms, they're concentrating on materials and body design, and they're using the same nib as any number of other manufacturers. So, I just lost interest, got bored. The last pen that I wanted to talk about, and believe me, I've given away a lot of pens, a lot of lower cost pens. So these are pens that I've actually traded or sold. And this is another one I traded. The Edison Collier, I think I said, got traded too. But it's the Pilot Fermo. Now, since this is not a secret because he's a YouTuber and it's shown up on his channel, I traded, let me try the English again. I traded my Pilot Fermo with ODE and got a very nice Lamy fountain pen in exchange. I won't say the Lamy pen is the most amazing Lamy pen I own, but it definitely fills a niche in my collection, which makes it fun. So what didn't I like about the Pilot Fermo? Well, first of all, it's kind of like the Pilot Vanishing Point, where you've got the clip that's in the way when you hold it. Now, the other thing I really didn't like was the super fine nib. Now, I have learned since that if you get a broader nib, those pens aren't as bad. But, yeah, the nib was just way too fine. I think it was an extra fine or something. But, easy to change at quite a cost, but easy to change. Because you have to buy the whole nib assembly. You don't just replace the nib. But the other thing that really bothered me with that pen was, if I'm using a retractable pen, it's for note-taking and stuff. I want to be able to retract it real quick. Well, I couldn't just lift up my fingers and twist it real quick to push out the nib, because it took too much twisting to push the nib out. The Lamy Dialogue 3, you could push that out with fairly easily, fairly quickly, with minimal twisting. The Pilot Fermo was just too much. And so I found that it sat in my pen drawer, and I never wrote with it. So when ODE expressed an interest in obtaining a Pilot Fermo, I was very happy to trade with him. So it's in a better home in Portugal, and probably having more fun than it would in rural North Dakota. Are there more pens on my list to trade or sell? Yes. I am not a minimalist. I'm not going to try to pull a Stephen Brown or a Matt Armstrong, get down to 10 pens or whatever, but I don't want as many pens as I have, so I want to get rid of some. And some of them are quite nice pens. So what I'm really looking for is, ideally, rather than this piecemeal trading one pen at a time or something, I would love to find a place that you could just sell them. They deal with all the mailing, they deal with all the ordering, they deal with the money, and they take a commission, and you just get the profit. And the pricing. I don't want to deal with pricing either, because I don't know what to price these things at. I go on eBay and, well, what's kind of middle of the road? Or, I don't want to do that. So, if you know of such a place, let me know down in the comments. But anyway, those are 4 pens that I've either traded or sold. Do you ever downsize or trade or sell? Do you have a maximum number of pens? Those would be interesting topics. And what makes you fall out of love with a pen? For me, lack of uniqueness. It's uncomfortable using it. I never use it. Those would be big ones for me. So anyway, I want to thank you for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.